What is going on, guys? Clayton Wobble Elliott back again. Let's Get Wobbled podcast. So I just finished recording the part one, I guess you would say. I don't even know if I'm going to make them a two-parter because they're not going to really tie into each other much. This is going to be like a whole different podcast. So bear with me. I'm just talking through my fucking thoughts. You probably think that I sound fucking stupid. Just hang in there with me because I promise we're eventually going to get to where we're going to go. But I just finished recording that first part. Um, and this part, I kind of want to transition a little bit into fantasy football. Football season is right around the corner, and I cannot fucking wait. I love college football. College football is a big time of year for me. I enjoy it. I love getting down on Saturdays. And before I didn't have Saturdays off, I would watch Ohio State football at work the best I could while I was working. I'm going to leave it at that. Don't want to talk too much about that because then I'm going to wind up talking into the shit that I did at work, and that won't be good for me. But I used to enjoy watching Ohio State football, and I knew that was extremely difficult. When the Buckeyes would play at noon, I could watch a little bit of it before I would go in, but then I would have to watch the tail end of the game at work or try to catch the score or see what the updates were through work. Well, now I've got Saturdays off, so there is no reason at all that I should have to miss a Buckeye game. I'm definitely looking forward to watching the games this year and seeing how my Buckeyes do this year. The last couple of years, we haven't really looked the greatest towards the end of the season, and I'm hoping that we can turn that around this year and have a good season. I'm looking forward to seeing how the playoffs work out this year with the new college football playoffs. Instead of having 4 teams, they're going to have 12 for the playoffs. So I think it's just going to change a lot of things. I think it's going to change the outlook on the ranking system a little bit. I think that, people aren't going to be battling so hard for those top 4 spots because at the end, it doesn't matter whether you're ranked 1 or 12, you're still going to get your opportunity to play for the national championship. So I definitely think there's going to be less pressure for the guys up top in the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed, and more pressure from the guys in the 12, 11, 10, maybe even 9 seed for those guys to keep winning out and to continue to go and be 100%. Where those guys in the 1, 2, 3, 4 spot, they're like, sure, we could lose a game and we'd probably fall a little bit. We might fall to 11, 12, maybe 10, just depending on who the team is that you lose to, how you're playing at the time of the year. You may fall completely out, but then you've got the rest of the season to hope that 1 through 12 eventually gets a loss. They fall out, which pushes you in. There's going to be a lot of different things that work for this year that didn't last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all that plays out with the Buckeyes. I'm hoping Ryan Day gets all the bugs worked out. I know we're in another new season. We're going to leave last season behind us, but hopefully we can run this around and get us another undefeated season. I would love to have an undefeated season. At least, worst case scenario, hopefully we don't, but if we get a loss, we can make a run through the playoffs and win us another national championship. But looking forward to it, spending time with Kristen and watching football. I know she's not a diehard football fan, but she'll sit down and watch with me. And another big thing too, with college football starting, NFL is going to be starting soon. Last year we did an NFL fantasy draft with the guys from Second Shift. Now that I'm not on Second Shift, I still wanted to continue to do the draft with those guys again this year. So we're going to be setting up a draft date. The guys are going to come down. We're going to draft our players for the fantasy draft Labor Day weekend, or the weekend before Labor Day weekend, I guess you would say. But we're just going to have a good time with it. Like I said, I'm not a diehard NFL fan. I'm a diehard college fan for sure. I like watching college ball, but not a huge pro football fan. I follow some players and don't really have even a team per se. But that's what I like so much about fantasies. You're not tied down to one team. You're kind of tied to a player. I enjoyed myself last year. I'm not a diehard fantasy football fan, but I still got into it and I enjoyed it. And playing with the guys. Last year, I'll have to look at my standings. We had 10 or 12 teams last year, I believe. Let me look and see if I can find it. Last year, I finished 5th out of 10 teams with an 8-7 record. So not horrible. I mean, I did have some weak spots last year, that's for sure. But I think my biggest pickup for those who watch fantasy football was Puka Nakua. I picked him up, I believe, week 2 or week 3 on the waiver wire. He had a wild weekend, and I was like, man, this is the guy. Nobody has him yet, and I see some big things out of him. So luckily, I was low enough in the waiver wire picks that I picked him up, and I know a couple guys ahead of me wanted him, and he just popped off for me. I tried to work him in with some trades later on in the year to get me some better players. Nobody really wanted to give up their higher end players for Puka, so I held on to him for the year. Um, and he did wonders for me. He had great stats last year. I couldn't be more happy with the year that he had. Yeah, week 2 last year, he put up 30 points. Week 4, he put up 31 points. I kind of leveled out there. Week 16 with the Saints had 33, but so he kind of leveled out a little bit, but he still did really good for me. I had great success with Puka, and I was extremely fortunate that I picked him up last year. And I think he's very high ranked this year in the wide receiver category. Right now, they've got him listed as the number 8 wide receiver for fantasy points. To this podcast, I just kind of wanted to break down a few things with fantasy football, kind of go over some rankings in different positions, kind of let you guys know what I feel. Maybe if you guys have a different idea about something, you can bounce it back and forth with me. We can talk about it. We can share it. You can tell me to fuck off, whatever you feel, I'm just using a website that I found that has them kind of all listed here. But for the quarterback position, for their top tiers, or what they're saying, the number 1 through 4, they've got Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, with Kansas City, and Lamar Jackson from Baltimore at the quarterback spot. I think Patrick Mahomes is a little bit underrated at 3. I mean, 2-time champion winners, I see Patrick Mahomes doing good things again this year. Do I know that I take him on my team? Not exactly. I think he's going to go way higher than what I would consider taking him as. Jalen Hurts being a top tier, them having him ranked as number 2. I'd like to see what he does this year. Last year, I just felt like he didn't play to his full potential, maybe. I'm not saying that he didn't give it his all, but I just felt like the Eagles could have done a little better. And maybe that wasn't his fault per se. Maybe, there was obviously issues in other places. But them having Jalen Hurts ranked over Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, I think he has a decent chance at running for that top tier spot. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. I could have pros and cons about both of those guys, but their tier 2 that this website has that I'm using has Richardson from the Indianapolis Colts, CJ Stroud at Houston, Kyler Murray from Arizona, Joe Burrow from Cincinnati, and Dak Prescott from Dallas. And those are the 5 through 9s. Not really sure how I feel about those. Some of those picks I do like. Richardson, I'd kind of like to see what he's going to do at Indianapolis, why they've got him ranked so high. CJ Stroud played a huge part in the Houston Texans season last year, so I understand why they've got him where they do. Once again, I'd like to see how he transitions into this year and see where his stats go. Kyler Murray with Arizona, we'll see what happens there. Not too sure about that. Joe Burrow, as long as he continues to do Joe Burrow shit, he'll be fine, unless he gets fucking injured again. We'll see what happens there. Dak Prescott, I think I hate this for the Cowboy fans, but I just feel like Dak's just, I don't know if I'm not saying he doesn't have it, but I'm just saying I'm not a fan. I guess I'll put it that way. Brock Purdy, I find it interesting. They have him ranked at number 12 in this list that I have. I took Brock Purdy last year, and a buddy of mine told me, he's like, man, I can't believe you took him as early as you did. I can't remember where I took him. I think I took him in like the 7th, 8th round, maybe even earlier. I might take him in the 6th as a backup quarterback. But I thought, from what I had seen from Brock Purdy, and even last year, he really didn't disappoint me last year. I kept him, I believe, for the most part of the year, if not the entire year last year. And it was always a toss-up of who I was going to play, whether it was Brock Purdy. I can't particularly remember who I had as my other quarterback, but I do know that it was between Brock Purdy and the other guy that I had. They were definitely competing for spots last year for me. I think it might have been Jared Goff. I can't remember. Maybe I traded for Jared. I can't remember, but I know Brock Purdy did me a lot of good last year, and I don't have any problems with the guy. I think he was a good addition to my team last year. We'll see what happens this year. Now over to the running back spot. Obviously, the first pick's obviously going to be Christian McCaffrey, which is crazy to me that he was number one ranked last year and is now number one ranked this year. This guy's a fucking stud. I believe he was the number one pick in our draft last year. Somebody picked him up, and in the early first round, there was no shot at getting him, and he's put up massive fucking numbers last year, and I'm assuming they're planning on him doing that again this year. At the number 2 and the number 3 seed, this is a huge controversy for some people, and I want to dig into this a little bit. Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall. So last year, I drafted Bijan. So I traded Bijan away for what I thought was a better deal with Breece Hall. I got a wide receiver with Breece Hall, and I believe I gave up something else with Bijan. But these guys are back and forth. They're trying to decide who is the better number 2 pick when it comes to running backs. In my honest opinion, seeing Aaron Rodgers come back this year again off the season that he had last year, he's going to need weapons. And I believe Breece Hall definitely had filled those shoes when it came to that position last year with the Jets. I think he did an amazing job. I just think that Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall are going to have tremendous years again this year. So I want to say Breece Hall is my number 2, but Bijan did so many good things for me last year also. Breece Hall kind of fell off a little bit kind of when I got him. And right at the end of the year, there was a lot of people that wanted Breece Hall. And I thought about trading him, but at the same time, I was like, oh, hold on to him. He's doing okay. He's not hurting my team any. I had him in the starting lineup. So there wasn't anything horrible about that. But I'd like to see what other people think. I want to see in our fantasy where they fall, who goes first, Bijan or Breece, and just kind of see where those guys fall and where they take place at. Tier 2, they have Jonathan Taylor at number 4, Derrick Henry at 5, Saquon Barkley at 6 with Philadelphia. I'd like to see where that's going to go. I think it's going to help the Philadelphia Eagles, but I also think it all depends on how that Barkley fits in with that offense. So we'll see what happens there. Gibbs from Detroit. Kyron Williams, I had him last year, I believe, on my fantasy team. He did good for me. I traded up and got Pacheco from somebody last year. They have him at the number 10 spot. I believe Pacheco did pretty decent for me last year. The only problem was he was sharing touches, and I didn't know he wasn't the consistent RB1. I mean, a lot of people were like, of course he was the RB1, but he was sharing touches, and there were some particular parts in the game where I wished Pacheco would have gotten more touches. And I think that would have helped me a lot more in my fantasy versus them switching their running backs out like they did. Big numbers here, I guess you could say. They have Mixon at 14, Cook at 15, Alvin Kamara at 19. I kind of expected that with the season that he had last year. Swift, they have him at 25 with the Chicago Bears. Like to see where that's going to go too. I mean, with him coming from Philadelphia into Chicago, I want to see if that's going to help them at all. I don't know that it's going to fix all their problems that they have down there in Chicago, but we'll see what happens. With the wide receiver slots, obviously CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Josh Jefferson, or Jake Jeff, whatever the fuck. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, and Jefferson. Top 4 guys. I don't have any problems with that. I think those are really good picks. Moving down the line into the second tier where they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, and Puka Nacua. That rounds up your top 8. I still don't really have any problems with that. I want to see how Puka is going to do. I believe he's a better wide receiver than he was previous year. I think he's going to be the LA Rams wide receiver 1 over Cooper Kupp. That's my, I guess you would say, take on that. I think Cooper Kupp did okay last year, but I really think Puka Nacua shined out as long as he stays healthy. The only bad thing about Puka that I had last year was he was fucking questionable. It seemed like every fucking week dealing with some sort of injury that he was going through. Brandon Ayuk is in the 12 slot that they have here. Chris Olave in the 15. DJ Metcalf at 16. Metcalf didn't really do anything for our league last year. We bounced him around a lot. The biggest one that I had was Devontae Adams. I believe I drafted him last year, and man, he just could not get the targets when he needed them. Don't get me wrong. He got targets at times, and he put up big points for me. But I remember there was one part in the year I was playing a guy and the only people that were left to play on our teams was Devontae Adams and the Raiders kicker. I had Devontae Adams, my buddy had the kicker, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna fucking lose this game because they're having to kick fucking field goals all night. And I was so worried because I was like, they're gonna fucking Devontae Adams isn't gonna get the touches. That guy can make fucking plays. I'm telling you, if they get him targets this year, I believe he's way better ranked than 17th than what they have here. They've got Cooper Kupp at 20th, and they've got Puka Nacua at 8. So that kind of tells you who the Rams think is going to do better this year, or at least what they think, I guess, in my perspective. But really, that rounds out the wide receivers for me. Another big controversy that's going on right now: who's the number one tight end in the league? They have Travis Kelce ranked at number 2, and honestly, I don't think that's a bad decision. Really, I'm not saying Travis Kelce isn't the shit. I mean, fuck you. If you watch anything about preseason ball, you saw the behind the back pass that was thrown to Kelce, and he caught it and made it a first down. But like, I don't know. I don't think he's gonna be consistent on this hot streak like he has been. I kind of want to see where he goes this year. They've got Sam Laporta as number 1. He did great for Detroit last year. Detroit's got some fucking weapons at wide receiver and tight end, even the running back slots. I mean, I don't think they have a bad fucking option there at all. Mark Andrews with Baltimore is number 3. McBride for Arizona. Kittle. I almost traded for Kittle last year. I thought he was going to do something at the end of the year. His numbers were super good at the beginning of the year, and then it felt like they just kind of fell off. I tried to trade a buddy of mine, but he wouldn't take Kyle Pitts, who they have at number 6. Pitts didn't do a fucking thing for me last year. It was just up and down. I think I had Kincaid for a little while. Then I flopped over to David Njoku. Njoku wound up putting up some good numbers for me. I really appreciated that. I had, I believe, Cole Kmet for a minute, and I was like, yeah, that was a bullshit thing until I traded him, and then he fucking did great one week and just had some amazing numbers. People think that games are not won and lost by a kicker, but let me tell you, I had Jake Elliott last year, not just because my last name's Elliott, but he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I was like, fuck it, we'll take a chance on this guy. But I'm telling you what, that fucking dude put up some points for me last year. I could not. I mean, I don't know if he ever got me out of a fucking slump where I didn't win last year. Let me see what they had him ranked at last year. So last year, week 1, 17 points. Week 2, 12 points, 11 points, 16 points, 11 points. This guy just fucking put up points for me. He had 149 points through the whole fucking year last year as a kicker. And for me, that was like, are you fucking crazy? Like, my kicker just scored me all these fucking points. That was amazing. Let's see, how many 50-plus field goals last year? He had 7. 40 to 49-yard field goals, he had 7. 30 to 39-yard field goals, he had 7. 20 to 29-yard field goals, he hit 9. Like, this is just amazing stats for a kicker. And what did he miss last year? Missed 2 field goals last year. Extra points, he hit 45 and missed 1. So really, those stats for me, I was like, this is my fucking cat. And we'll see what happens. I might get him this year. I might not. But the kickers, they've got Baltimore's kicker, Tucker, Dallas's kicker, Aubrey, Kansas City Chiefs kicker, Butker. They've got a bunch of kickers in there. I mean, kickers are a dime a dozen. You can get one anywhere. But at the same time, you also want to think of where you're going to be at in the season. For me, it's not necessarily who the best kicker is, but I thought Philadelphia might have a hard time getting in the end zone. I felt like there was a possibility that they weren't going to be good in the red zone and they would have to bring on the field goal unit to kick. And essentially, that's basically what happened for me. But we'll have to look and see. I'm definitely looking forward. I'm getting the itch for football season. It's right around the corner. I'm super excited for it. I'm excited to see who's going to draft who and how things are going to play out. I mean, last year's draft kind of surprised me a little bit. Just at kind of where people went, who picked up who passed on who, if you know anything about fantasy football, it's wild. So last year's draft board, Justin Jefferson went the overall 101 pick. Christian McCaffrey went 2nd. Jamar Chase 3rd. Austin Eckler 3rd. Tyreek Hill 4th. We got that all fucked up. 5th. Stephon Diggs, then Travis Kelce. I took Bijan Robinson, number 1. my first pick, I guess not number one pick, but the first pick that I had. Took him number one, Devontae Adams. I had T. Higgins on my team. T. Higgins did okay for me for a couple games and then just absolutely fucking tanked the rest of the year. I had Justin Fields was my quarterback that I was trying to think of early. So I had Justin Fields. Traded him away later on in the year. Didn't wind up keeping him through the year. Traded out Bijan. I know I had Devontae Adams all the way through the year. Kyle Pitts obviously didn't do anything for me. I'm pretty sure I traded him off. Damon Pierce, once again, not really anything there. I traded him away pretty early. Had Brock Purdy throughout the entire year, I do believe. Tyler Lockett, I believe. I traded him away. I don't think I had him. Zach Ertz, I believe I traded him off. Dalvin Cook traded. Kansas City's defense was pretty decent for me. I can't remember if I kept them all year or not, if I traded defenses. I believe I might have kept them. I'm not sure. Jake Elliott as the kicker, Zay Flowers, Jamal Williams, and Rondale Moore was who I drafted last year. Not a great draft, in my opinion. Now, looking back on it, I can kind of see why I got fifth. But it wasn't a bad year for me. I thought I was going to do worse than what I did, and I'm glad that I turned out pretty decent with where I was at. So, looking forward to see how it is this year. I'll update you guys on the roster after everything's drafted. Not this weekend. Actually, the weekend you guys are listening to it, we will be drafting that afternoon. So when you guys listen to this, we will be in the war room drafting out, probably in the garage if the weather's nice. If it's not nice, then we'll have to fucking figure out something else. But it's going to be a good time for sure. Looking forward to it. This time of year, I mean, it sucks because motorcycle season is starting to wind down a little bit. You're getting to the tail end of summer, so you're getting to the tail end of motorcycle season. We're trying to plan a couple more rides, a couple more poker runs, some different things that we want to do. We're going to go up to Brook Park in September for their pig roast that they've got going on. That'll be a nice little ride for us. So looking forward to connecting with those guys one more time before the year's up. And then there's one more event that I like to go to every year. 2 years ago, we did it in Cleveland. The year after was up in Michigan. So whoever hosts the big game or the game, I guess you would say, if Ohio State is the home team, we have it in Cleveland. If Michigan is the home team, they have it up in Michigan somewhere. But we go up and the Warthogs get together and we put the Ohio State Michigan game up on a green screen or a fucking just blast it up on a fucking wall and we watch it. Have some beers, some cigars, and just fucking kick back and chill. It's a nice way to end out the season, late November, right around Thanksgiving time. So right after Thanksgiving, I do believe, but it's a good time. I enjoy spending time with those guys, and hopefully Ohio State pulls it out of their ass this year and gets a big win over Michigan. So we'll see what happens. But well, guys, I hate that this episode was short. Also, I know that the last episode was pretty short. Like I said, we're going to try to talk to Scout and see if we can get an interview done. Going to try to talk to the prospects, see if they're interested in possibly doing a podcast one night. Just seeing what schedules we can fit in and who we can get squeezed in. So if you would like to be an episode guest, don't hesitate to hit me up. I've been looking for some guests to get on the podcast. Not really running out of ideas, but trying to work around people's schedules to do them in the evenings and on the weekends. It's kind of difficult because people plan shit in their evenings and weekends or don't want to do shit on the evenings or weekends. And I get that. But if you have anything that you'd like to talk to me about, if you think that you would be a good guest on the Let's Get Wobbled podcast, if you believe that, hey, why haven't you hit me up yet? Fucking Corey Moore did that for like a year and I finally got him on. If you think that you'd be a good guest, hit me up. Let me know you'd be willing to get on. Maybe there's something you have on your mind that you'd like to talk about, whatever. We'll get off your chest and we'll just sit down, have a good time. We'll get wobbled together like I'm doing right now. So until next time, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Please be safe. Don't go out and do anything that I wouldn't do, which is anything fucking stupid. If you're going to drink, please, please, please either have a designated driver or call somebody to come get you. This is the last kind of big shebang weekend to kind of round out the summer. A lot of people do some crazy shit every Labor Day weekend, which is fine. Be yourself. Get a little wobbled. I got nothing against that. Just make sure that if you're going to go anywhere, you call somebody to take you home. Don't get behind the wheel. Not only are you putting your life in line, you're putting somebody else's line and anybody else's line that you cross, you're putting their life in jeopardy as well. So enjoy your weekend. I hope you guys have a wonderful time. We're going to get to this fucking draft right quick. And until next time, guys, we'll see you on the flip side. Stay wobbled.